I sparred a pro boxer using only this one technique, and the results shocked me. By the end of this video, you will know what the one technique is and how it allowed me to hang with a 50 plus pro fight veteran who's getting ready for a small title fight. And then I'm also going to give you 5 ways that it'll work for you. So make sure you stick around for that. Coach Keith Kepner here, amateur professional boxing coach for 15 plus years. And let me tell you about my experience. This dates back going on now 16, 17 years ago. All right. Towards the end of me boxing, I had the opportunity to get some work in with one of my dad's former pro fighters, who, like I said, had a lot of experience. He fought in Madison Square Gardens and a bunch of amateur fights, a bunch of professional fights to a high level. And he's really kind of like a gatekeeper. And he had the opportunity to finish out his career with a good bang, fighting for a very small title. Because you guys that know anything about boxing will know there's many levels of titles, right? It wasn't a WBC title. I can't remember what it was, but it was a great opportunity for him to fight for it. And he won that. And so he was able to retire as some form of champion, which is an awesome way to finish out a professional boxing career. So kudos to him. And I really appreciate the opportunity that I got to go in the ring with him on 2 different sessions. The first session, I went in there with him and I did so-so. I'd never gotten dropped or doubled over by a body shot. I didn't go on the canvas, but I got doubled over and had to stop for a second. He got me with a beautiful liver shot the first session that we worked. He set it up high with the left hook up high, then dropped it down below, got my arm up, took the liver, and oh my gosh, I've never been hit by a left hook to the body like that before, ever, or since, ever. And this guy was smaller too. Then also, as well, I've sparred bigger guys, I've sparred heavyweights, sparred the 2-time national heavyweight champion of Mexico, and never got hit like that. And that's where there's levels to this game. And through the precision of technique, you can, if you're at a different level, fight people of many different weight classes or spar against people of many different weight classes. And then every time I jabbed, right, because you feel the jab is the weapon. It's the weapon to beat somebody or to control them or to hang in there. Every time I jabbed, I felt like this freaking guy would shoot over it with a right cross, slip his head offline, and I would try to catch as I jab, I'd try to whatever, and it felt like every time I did that, bam, he was tearing me up on the inside, tearing me up on the outside, and I just had nowhere to go. If I remember correctly, actually now thinking about it, he would do a round with me. I would take a round off. He would hit the bag. Then he would do a round with me because he was working me that freaking hard. All right. He's getting locked in. Now, the conditioning coach and assistant coach that was helping my father out and helping me out, he was there to watch the whole session. And he had his own thoughts about how it went and different things I could do. And he made a suggestion to me about the next time, if I got a chance to work with him again before he fought, that he wanted me to focus on. He said, Keith, next time you go in there with him, I want you to do this one certain thing a certain number of times. And they said that he was going to actually sit there and count it during the rounds to make sure I did it that certain number of time. All right. Now, a little bit later, I got the opportunity, maybe it was a couple weeks later, to do a few more rounds with him. And this time he actually came over to our house, my family home that I grew up in. We had a basement, or rather a garage that was turned into kind of like a daylight basement. And in that, I had made a makeshift boxing ring. There's actually a picture of it. And, put up barrels, put a canvas on the ground, staple it to plywood sheets, and had a very fast canvas, a very fast ring, meaning it wasn't that squishy. Actually, I put some carpet foam over it before putting the canvas on top of the plywood pieces, right? And it served its purpose. That's what's so beautiful about boxing is you just need a square of some type, right? Had 3 ropes up, old school style, not the 4. Anyway, so the result of taking what this assistant coach and conditioning coach told me to do, I had an opportunity to do that now working with this guy again, with this pro fighter. So got in there, warmed up, and then started hitting a few rounds with him. And I did it. because I did my best to be coachable, right? It's so true where if you aren't coachable, you might as well be trying to do everything by yourself. You don't need a coach if you're not at least trying to listen. Now, of course, I know how it is. I've tried to listen and not been able to execute, but a good coach will know the difference. Anyway, so I took the advice and did my best to execute it. The result, I didn't get hit with those right crosses over my jab anymore, and I didn't get smashed with that liver shot. Actually, I really didn't get hit that much at all. I'm not going to say I necessarily won the rounds. I don't even know. I didn't have a good grasp of, I think I was, so locked about not getting hit by crap, right? And also on the mission, I wasn't really thinking about that, but I definitely held my own. Worlds above what that coach had seen me do in the previous session with this pro fighter. What was the advice that assistant coach gave me? He said, I want you to do this certain thing, and I want you to do a certain number of times, and that I'm going to count it from the outside of the ring. What he told me was, he said, Keith, I want you to throw 100 jabs around, and I'm going to count to make sure you do 100 jabs around. I got close to throwing 100 jabs around. I don't think I actually hit 100, but I got close. And by having that goal, that big goal to shoot for 100, he got me closer to it than if the goal was to just do 20 jabs or 30 jabs. 100 jabs around is a lot of punches, particularly for someone that's like a middleweight. Anyway, the result, though, was it changed everything. Now, how did it change these things, right? I didn't get, because remember, I told you before, I shoot my jab out, I get smashed by a right hand, right cross over the top, liver shot, things like that. Let me give you the 5 ways that it made a dramatic difference for me in the ring with this veteran pro fighter. Now, as we all know, when you physically have something in your face, if I take my hand and I put it over your eyes, you're not going to be as good of a boxer. If we can turn off the lights, if you and I are boxing each other and we can turn off the lights and I have night vision and you don't, it doesn't matter how good of a boxer you are, unless we're super, super, super tight, you can kind of feel. If there's any space, you're going to have a hell of a time. That's what the jab can do. It can take away the eyes. The analogy I use is sand in the face. I kept sand in his face, right? Imagine I had a handful of sand that I just kept on flicking at him, getting sand in his eyes, and so he's blinking and everything else. That's what a jab does for you when you make a goal to use a lot of jabs. And that alone disrupts so many things. Then when I'm putting out all the jabs, I got sand in his face, controlling his eyes, but then also controlling his thinking. Now, how am I doing that? Is it by hypnosis? No. It's that headshots control people's thoughts and focus, right? What they're mentally able to be aware of and be considering and everything else, and control their thoughts, truly. And body shots control their breathing, right? Because if you're ripping someone's body, they got to tighten up a little bit. They're going to. So you're going to control and dictate the course of their breathing, and the headshots control their thinking. I didn't come up with that. That came from a great martial arts coach, Chuck Bodak. I stole it from. It's a beautiful one. Then the next thing, number 3, is that the jab allowed me, obviously, to not get hit by those liver shots. It allowed me to make sure I only had certain weapons to worry about. Really, the only weapon I had to worry about now from him was his jab. So it limited the punch variety by establishing range. Because we were about the same length of fighters, if not, maybe I had a very slight reach, about the same. And me putting out that jab and doing a lot of jabs and being smart with the jab, not smothering and everything else, allowed the fact that it's going to make it so really all he has is a jab, because I'm doing other things with the jab that I'm going to talk about in the rest of these 5 reasons. But then controlling his eyes, controlling his thinking, and keeping range so he can't get inside and work, which is where he was devastating. But he's also devastating on the outside, like I said. But with the way the jab is being thrown in the next point, it allowed me to truly be moving around the ring with that punch. I was able to move more effectively, because if you just move without a jab, people will just come at you. But if you're moving with your jab, now that does 2 things. One is they have to tell where you're moving, right? Which anyone will know can be a challenge in and of itself, but now you have to deal with the punch coming at you while you're attempting to line up where they're moving, right? So you got two things you got to deal with now instead of one. If you're moving, that can be hard to deal with, but a good fighter can cut you down, cut you off. If you're just jabbing, a good fighter, it can be hard to deal with, but a good fighter can deal with that if you're just standing in one place. But if you do those two things together, it's very difficult. And with that moving now, that takes away that right cross because I'm stepping back with the jab. So taking away the range that he is good at overcoming by shooting a right cross. And by moving with that jab, think about it. When you slip a right hand, you slip it to the outside typically. So as I'm jabbing off to my left side, as long as I keep my chin down behind my left shoulder and everything else, and circling with a lot of jabs like that, now trying to get that right hand off, it's going to be very hard to get it, particularly for the head. Then the last one, number 5, is that when you have those multiple jabs, now you have interference. And that interference in and of itself takes away counters. If someone is a one-punch person, one punch, if you're a counterpuncher, is the best thing. That's what you want. You want your guy or your gal that you're going against to shoot one punch. Please shoot one punch and do that over and over again. Ideally, throw the same punch over and over again so we can figure out the best ways to counter that thing. But when you start mixing up variety of what punch you're starting with, of course, but that wasn't the mission for me. It was the amounts, multiples, 100. So you better believe I threw some double jabs in there, some triple jabs, probably some quadruple, and whatever else comes up after that. Might have thrown 6 in a row at sometimes. That is going to make it harder to time and to come over with the right hand, along with the movement and everything else, as well as any other type of counter you can do. Now, he was very good at moving his head, and you better believe I was trying to shoot that jab a little bit lower, a little bit more for the chest area, and a few other areas. But the goal was put out all those jabs. And when you're putting out a goal of 100 jabs around, those jabs are going to go anywhere and everywhere. And they did. And that's what allowed me to dictate those few rounds and to allow myself to level up with someone with that much experience. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment below for how maybe you'll put this into your next sparring session with a higher level fighter you struggle with. But make sure you keep those 5 points in mind, because each one of those 5 points, if you only have one of them, then it doesn't work so well. You want all those 5 points in consideration for how you're utilizing that tool and that one technique of using the jab and making a goal of shooting 100 jabs around. Your arm's going to be tired. You got to learn how to throw it loose, but 100 jabs around, and that will allow you to level up the playing field as long as you have all the other boxes checked. Obviously, if your chin's up in the air, and obviously if you're lunging with your jab and everything else, there's going to be challenges with that. If you just stand still with your jab, boom, shoot the right hand for the body, right? Dig your ribs. That's not going to be good either. You need all of it together with this one technique. It's been said that the devil's in the details, but also God is in the details. By the way, speaking of the details, I have my ComboCraft system. You really need to check that out. I'll have a link in the description or pinned in the comments up top. And it's going to allow you to not only learn the concepts and all the specifics of how to put your punches together, but then also give you the tools and the practical practice to implement it and to really create that reflexive ability to see openings and fill openings with your punches, which is what you need, and get to that level where it's so easy that it's almost unconscious when you're practicing enough. All right, guys, Coach Keith Kepner, make sure you watch out for the next video. I'll see you there.